Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the CAMM meeting to order. And I would like to ask if there are any additions to the agenda. There's no additions to the agenda. Can I get approval of the minutes? Are there any revisions or addition to the meeting minutes? So if there's no revisions or additions, can I have a motion and a second to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve. Yeah, people
Yes,
seconded
it's
in the
been
chat.
second. Okay, great. Secretary will record the revisions, or no revisions rather. So we'll go ahead and start with our officer reports. So it looks like we have Rachel first.
The full text of the staff report is in the packet, but for now I will be summarizing it and we'll take any questions at this time. I would like to thank everyone for participating in our LEAP month. I will be finishing up the report and we'll create a website to follow up on some of the questions and comments that we had on LEAP month. And I'll let you know when that's available online. On Monday, February 26th at 10 p.m., Innovative will upgrade our production database to Polaris 7.5. We anticipate that all of the custom pack language and elements will be reinstated prior to 12 p.m. on the 27th. I'd like to thank all of our volunteers that helped us to deduplicate Warren Newport's records. CCS created a new workflow that was much more efficient than previous years. So we've already finished deduplicating as of yesterday, which is great. In regards to upcoming training, CCS will be working on 2 major projects for training everyone on Find More Illinois and training Mount Prospect and Waukegan on Polaris and preparing for the migration. The Polaris upgrades for 7.6 and 7.7 will add new technical service functions in the second and fourth quarters. So I'll need to take some time to upgrade our training courses before I can schedule training for those upgrades. I also included a link to PCC's training for the new RDA toolkit. But as a reminder, we will not be officially switching to that new toolkit until 2027. So feel free to check those out on your own time. Are there any questions? All right, Virginia?
I think most of my stuff is also in the packet. Let's see. I think I mentioned that subdivisions like computer games is now video games. There were some changes, LCSH changes, especially like the Mormon went to Mormon, from Mormon, I think, to Latter-day Saints and stuff like that. So instead of Mormon churches, you'll have Latter-day Saint churches and things like that. There's a couple other subject headings mentioned. I forget. I think something to do with airplane racing too. That's in the packet. Let's see. We had a newer release for Homosaurus. There were only a few changes. I thought it would take me, it would be a lot more work for me to do. It was really very quick changes for us. There was a couple that had to be changed and a couple that were actually duplicates of LC headings. So sometimes I usually remove the Homosaurus heading if there's exact duplicate of the LC heading, and we can just use the LC heading, LCSH heading. The big thing I wanted I'm also going to be doing, I'll do archives sometime next month. I'm not quite sure when yet. I'll have to see how everything goes. My plans and stuff like that. The big thing is that they're actually two same genre headings, basically, but they're two separate genre headings that are in the same basically subject matter, but they're different. Like there's large print books, which is an LCSH heading, and then there's large type books, which we've been using for a long time as a local heading. And so there's been talk, and people have catalogers have emailed me and asked if we could just combine them. The large print books heading is an LCGFT, so that would actually be a better one because it is not a local heading. We do have a lot more books under large type. So if we're okay with everything, I'm planning on actually changing sometime next month. Ooh, next month's gonna be busy. But anyway, I'll let the computer do most of the changes for me. So even though there's gonna be a lot more headings on large type, like over 24,000 headings, the computer will be able to do it over a certain time period. So I just wanted to let you know that we'll be combining those. So we'll be just using large print books instead of the heading, genre heading, instead of large type books. Unless there's a question, anybody have any questions on this? Okay, that's my report. Over to you, Tammy. You're muted.
Sorry. We're gonna move on over to Rachel for the scrap report.
All right. The Scrap Advisory Group held a meeting on January 17th. The link to the recording, minutes, and slides are in the packet. Ross Shanley Roberts presented on the use of Polish subject headings at Mount Prospect. Mount Prospect's catalog will be migrated to CCS in the end of September and will be live during the beginning of October. So he requested that Scrap and CAMM consider allowing Polish subject headings in the catalog. Scrap members unanimously passed the motion to recommend to CAMM that CCS allow the usage of the National Library of Poland's subject headings, which is source code DBN in the database. CCS libraries would not be required to use it. So the next item on the agenda is a possible action to vote on the motion to allow the National Library of Poland subject headings in the database. In the packet, I included some facts about the Polish titles in the catalog and how well they circulate. I've also included a suggested workflow. I did forget to include Ross's name in the agenda, but he's here to present to everyone today, and then I can review the possible workflow later. Ross?
Thank you, Rachel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I don't want to take up too much time. So let me see though if I can share my screen, and if not, that's fine. Nope, I'm not seeing that again. So I'll just go through it quick anyway.
You should be able to. I made you a co-host.
Okay. Oh, there we've got it. Okay. There we go. Okay. And you can see it? Yes. Now. Great. Okay. So, just real quick, I did a real quick and dirty search on CCS and found that we have about 17,000 Polish language titles, and Mount Prospect has about 5,300, 2,500 of which appear to be unique to CCS. And in comparison with, the Spanish, that we have about 42,000 in CCS. So I think it's more than reasonable to move to this. Yeah, I'm not sure why that slide. So one thing is that when OCLC gets the records from the National Library of Poland now, it does come in with these headings already. And I think for our Polish users, it would be useful to be able to find things using those. Currently, we do not have them in Mount Prospect's catalog, and that's because we're right now Horizon and can't wait until we get to Polaris again. So we've not been including those. This is a project that I would like to go into if this is approved after we get in to rectify the lack of subject headings. It's just a page at the National Library about the things. And we're actually able to pull them in through, Lord, it's early in the morning for me. You actually be able to pull them in to Mark Edit and be able to pull them in from there. So it's really actually easy. And also for anybody who can't read Polish, including myself, I'm still learning, we can translate through Google Translate and it gets really close so that you have an idea. Also, it helps to do the English subject headings if you can transfer that over. And that's about it. So I'm going to stop the sharing. I don't want to take up too much time with everybody. Does anybody have questions? Come on. Amy? Lynn? Catherine? There are some people here I've worked with I haven't seen in a while. Hi.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when I read the suggested workflow, it's run the local practice macro. So does it mean the macro is already prepared to keep those headings? Or we are going to need to update the macro?
That is a question for John. John LaValle, are you here? Just check the list of participants. I see John's name there. Maybe he stepped out for a minute. I'll get back to you on that. John's the one that will be updating it.
Thank you.
See, there are some questions in the chat. Jamie asked if we can add to the motion that it's just for Polish language materials. If that is the case. Yes, Jamie, it will just be for Polish language materials. And not for other English language materials. And Richard said, I assume the policy would be the same as the Spanish language subject headings. We won't need to add them, but we'll have the option to keep them if present. Yes, Richard, that will be the case. It will not be required for CCS libraries to use it, but if they want to, they can. So I briefly did just want to pull up my presentation slides. And I do have a few slides here, one moment. So in the packet, I had some basic facts, so I can just review them if you haven't seen them. So as of the other day, we'd had 17,563 Polish titles that came up in Simply Reports. And the number of item records is over 25,000. So as Russ said, the amount of unique Polish titles that would be added are 2,552. So that will put us over 20,000. So one thing that I found was interesting was if you calculate the average lifetime circulation of each Polish item, it was 23 checkouts per item, which I think is interesting because it is higher than the number of checkouts for all of those other diversity audit tool topics covered, like BIPOC, women, and so forth. So if the motion passes, I'll be updating the catalogers wiki so that it has language that's similar to or the same as the Spanish subject headings. I'll make sure I update the Rails World cataloging service profile to let Nancy know that using the Polish subject headings is possible, so that you can utilize that service if you'd like. And we are going to be investigating options for a retroactive cataloging project for the Polish language titles. So my suggested workflow is to use OCLC connection for cataloging these titles so the diacritics can be exported using the UTF-8 settings. If you do prefer to import using Z3950, the diacritics will not come in properly and you'll have to carefully correct any letters that should have diacritics. When using OCLC connection, you can search for the Polish language record of the Polish language titles that you have in connection and simply copy the subject headings in the 650 and 651 fields with subfield 2 dbn to the English language record. There are 648s in the Polish language records, but we should not be copying those, just the 650 and 651s. If there are no headings with subfield 2 dbn in it, you're welcome to try to search for them in the Polish National Library's website, but it's not required. So it's up to you if you want to take the time to do that. You'll be able to run the local practices macro, export the record, and import the file to CCS catalog. Are there any other questions?
Excuse me, I'd also like to point out something that I came across recently that I was unaware of, that the top 10 languages of each state in the country have been set up, figured out, and for most of the states, of course, the top one is Spanish, but the third one for Illinois is Polish, and it is the only state in the country that has Polish as one of the top 3 languages. So.
It looks like Jamie
Jamie
has
has-
a question. I was gonna say Jamie has a question about the 655s. Go ahead, Rachel.
All right, so Jamie has a question about the 655s. So we would basically be following the same guidelines as the Spanish headings to not use the 655s in Polish and just use the 650s and 651s. And I would think you could use the 600s too if there's a name that's spelled differently in Polish than English, that you may want to use that as well.
I guess I have one question regarding how patrons can change the language in the pack. So what's the added benefit of actually having the record have Polish headings?
The actual content of the MARC bibliographic record doesn't change. It's just the things like the description in the pack and the actual website part, like the links and the way the facets are labeled, any labels change.
Okay, I just wanted everybody to understand that there is a difference between the two things.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, since there are no other questions, let's see. So Adrian is the secretary this year. Adrian, would you like to facilitate the process of voting for the motion? If anyone would like to make a motion?
Well, having the last name of Skorczynski, I'll go ahead and make the motion to pass the proposal for the Polish headings.
Jamie asked, is it amended to say for Polish language materials? Yes, we can amend the motion for that. There is a second in the chat. Kathy from McHenry seconds it. Let's see, Adrian, is Adrian here?
I
Or did
am
she come
sorry.
back?
I was
Okay.
having trouble getting my mic. So yeah, sorry, the last thing I heard was that Tammy motioned.
Tammy motioned and Kathy from McHenry seconded.
So we don't need to
And
take a roll
the-
call vote in that case, right?
Yes, and the language for the motion is amended to say for Polish language materials.
Yes, got that. Thank you.
Adrian, you're muted again.
Sorry, everybody. Can we get a roll call vote, please, starting with Algonquin? No. Harry? Library?
Here. Here.
Is that a yes?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Crystal Lake?
So Lake
Displays?
is in the chat.
Okay, displays.
Yes.
Ela?
Brian Christensen is in the chat.
Evanston?
Yes.
Fox River? Yes. Fremont?
Yes.
Yes. Glencoe? Glenview?
Yes.
Grays Lake?
Yes,
Highland Park?
Yes, for Highland Park.
Huntley? Yes. Indian Trails? Yes. Lake Forest? Yes. Lincolnwood? Yes. McHenry?
Yes.
Yes. Niles. Yes. Palatine,
Yes.
yes. Parkridge.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Did somebody say something? Parkridge? Yes, okay. Prospect Heights. Yes, Round Lake.
Yes.
Yes. Warren Newport.
Yes.
Yes, and Wilmette. Yes, okay. Passes.
Zion also says yes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't have Zion on the list. Don't know why.
It's okay,
Zion,
best for
yes.
last.
Also, when that, okay, I'm gonna look at that, okay.
It also looks like Fran is here from Waukegan. So she wants to vote. She can vote because they're already official members.
We vote yes.
Thank you.
And Mount Prospect, since they presented, would be a yes. Adrian, do you want to go through the ones that did not respond yet, in case someone missed it?
Yeah, did we
'Cause I do
get
see some others.
anyone from Algonquin? Or Glencoe?
I don't see anyone from Algonquin or Glencoe on the list. I do see Michael Glale from Glenview. Did he vote?
I did get a yes from Glenview.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay,
So I think the other two are absent.
so motion passes.
Great. I will update the wiki sometime today by the end of the day.
Okay, then Rachel, did you want to move on to the reminders?
Yes. Let's see. My first reminder on the list is to review the damaged item procedures. 1 minute. I want to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, so we had a great question that came in from technical services on what to do when damaged items come to you from another library. So I just wanted to remind everyone of this damaged item procedures page. This has a really great chart on what to do. So you can go through it to identify the correct section for following the correct procedures. Does the item belong to you? Is it your patron? Was the item checked out at your library? And then go to the appropriate section. I do want to add the caveat that the specific Polaris related instructions will be changing as soon as we update the catalog to 7.5, and Miko will be here today to provide a brief overview of the new damaged item procedures. So this page will be updated, as well as any other damaged item instructions in the website. And so the next thing on the agenda is the quality of Vox records. I had a report recently of we had Oh, never mind. One second. I just saw a direct message to me. So, we had a report of Vox records coming in as the book record with the OCLC number for the record in OCLC that is just the book, and then it was updated by Vox to be the Vox record, and these records came from Vox. So when you do receive your records from Vox, please review them carefully to make sure that it's not the OCLC number for the record for the book that's not the Vox version. If you do receive one that is a Vox record that was not derived properly from the OCLC record, please go into OCLC and create a new record for the Vox record by deriving the record in OCLC. So it has a new OCLC number. This is under Edit, Derive, and New World Cat Record. Are there any questions about what I covered so far? Okay, so the next thing is the review of the local practice for the title of video games. I just wanted to review that because we had a report of the platform in the 245 in the final version of the records. And I just want everyone to review this again because this is only for on-order records. And this is for the acquisition staff because they were having trouble identifying which record to receive in the purchase order. So when you do make the final records for video games, please remove the platform from the final record. We do not want it to remain in the 245 of the final record. And next is the call number for seasons. I had linked to the wrong page in the packet, so I'll send out a new updated packet with the right link. So this is the call number analytics for periodicals page, and we did receive a report of seasons that were spelled out. Our local practice is to use the abbreviation for the seasons. So please review all of your publication patterns to make sure that the season is set up as abbreviation. Are there any questions? Okay, let's see. Karen asks if they can be in all caps. If you're using the publication pattern, it will probably put it in with the first letter capitalized, I believe. But if it isn't in all caps, I don't think it will matter for bold purposes because it looks at the issue record. So if your volume is different because you also use the volume field, I don't think that will necessarily matter for periodicals. Are there any other questions?
This is sort of tangential, but is there a way when doing seasons for periodicals to have Polaris define winter as the first season of the year in terms of predictions rather than the last?
No, we can't change the order.
Okay, so for predictions, you just have to change up. Like it's always going to put winter 2025 and then spring 2026. And if winter is actually the first issue of the year, you just need to work around that.
Penny said
I like Penny's
she
reason.
says that it is expected in April and received 60 days prior.
All right, that works. But I thought it was probably a back setting we couldn't change, but I just wanted to double check if anyone had found a way.
Yeah, I don't think so. Although I know in Leap, I remember seeing that there's a way to reorder it when you edit the publication pattern, so I can play around with it and see what it does.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next on our agenda is to review the preparation steps to prepare your collections for Find More Illinois. So when CCS sends the catalog to Find More Illinois, it's going to be using different criteria than what we do for sending our holdings to OCLC. So we're going to be looking at the loanable outside system setting in the item record. And once the records get to Find More Illinois, they'll be looking at the circulation status in order to identify what will be eligible or not. So anything with available or recently returned will be eligible to be lent out. So this loanable outside system setting is in the item record. In the client, it's in the request section. And in Leap, it's on that details tab towards the bottom of the page. So in this website, we have a list of tasks that you should complete before we send our collections to Find More Illinois to make sure that all of the records are set up properly. So the first thing you'll need to do is decide which material types, collections, social locations, and other attributes that will not be loanable via Find More Illinois. You'll need to then review the loanable outside system report and web reports. So this was under the bib and item management section. This report includes a count of the items with the loanable outside system checkbox checked or unchecked, and the additional item counts by hold settings are there so that you can identify the collections where the loanable outside system checkbox may need to be bulk updated. So the report includes tabs for material type, shelf location, the combination of shelf location and material type, and statistical code. So then you'll need to decide which combinations of attributes need that setting to be unchecked. If you do not want items to be loanable via Find More Illinois, all new items that have, I should edit this to say the new item material types or collections should be included in the list. And you'll need to create record sets of the item records that need to be bulk changed. And then you can bulk change it. This is on the circulation tab. You'll need to check the checkbox for loanable outside system and then check or uncheck it depending on what you want to change. So then you'll need to update your item templates to include checking that box or unchecking it. If you do not want your new items to be loanable, you would want to uncheck that and then check it as part of that denewing workflow. So you'll need to update your denewing item templates as well. Are there any questions? So I
Does
also
this
forgot
check-
to
Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, I also forgot to mention there is a SQL query for loanable outside system unchecked to identify anything you might have left unchecked by accident. And this query can be customized for your needs. So if you do need assistance with customizing this query for specific settings, feel free to contact us at the help desk. What's the deadline to make these changes? So the deadline to make these changes will be based on your library's go live date for Find More Illinois, and this will vary from May to August, depending on your library. There are some that have chosen to wait a bit longer than August till 2025. So if you can do it by May, that to prepare for it, that would probably be best. However, if you need some more time to do it, I would use the deadline as the date that your library is choosing to go live with Find More.
And does whether this box is checked or unchecked affect anything else other than Find More Illinois?
No, this will just be for Find More Illinois.
Thank-
However, we can take into consideration the setting in the future. We can like discuss our options for using it for OHM, but I think that one library did want to not use it because they were interested in having their local history collections that's not lendable still viewable in OCLC. So I think that that would be a case for not using the loanable outside system for that that data extract. Are there any other questions?
There's a question in the chat, Rachel.
Oh, Anita asked, how often is the data extracted for Find More Illinois? We're going to have to be updating it fairly regularly because of wanting to keep our holdings updated and Find More as much as possible, but I'm not exactly sure how often right now. I'll have to ask Deborah about that and update you. But I know one of the good things about Find More is that the connection between the software, Share It, will be streamlining the process for creating those ILL records in the pack. So it'll basically happen automatically, and then put those ILL records on the pick list. So it will be a bit less work for ILL staff and CERC staff, because it will be a more streamlined process than using OCLC. Are there any other questions? Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is a preview of the reading workflow. So 1 second. I'm just switching to PowerPoint. So with the 7.5 upgrade, we are getting a new reading workflow. It will include 2 new types of records, the reading templates and reading record sets. So this is important for any technical services staff that take part at any point at the reading workflow, especially if you are responsible for withdrawing and deleting item records. This will not be a required workflow. Your library is allowed to make the choice to use it. It does help to streamline that process so that you can withdraw and delete items at the same time instead of doing 2 extra steps to withdraw it in a record set and then delete it. So we will be having a training session coming up that you can register for. The link is in the packet. It's going to be in March, on March 26th at 1 p.m. And if you are interested in learning more about this weeding workflow, please do attend the webinar, but we will be recording it so you can watch the recording if you won't be available. So these 2 types of records include the weeding template, as I said. The weeding template is just the settings for the record set. So this will help you streamline the withdrawing and deleting of records. And the settings can also alert you to items that you may not want to be withdrawn. So this can include filters as a power search, as well as how old the record should be. The template is linked to the weeding record set, and the weeding record set is used to review the list to identify items that shouldn't be withdrawn. And it uses the term of an approval process in order to streamline the withdrawing and deleting of records. Now, I know that the selectors tend to not need any approval unless they're new at a library. So I just would like to say, even though you see this word as approval process, you can just think of that as potentially the technical services step in which you're going to be streamlining the steps of withdrawing and deleting records at the same time. So I just want to share some images from Leap. 1 second while I switch to the browser and close PowerPoint. I forgot to log in ahead of time. 1 second. All right, so in the Find tool, these records are listed in the database drop-down menu with the weeding template, and record set will be the record set. So I'm going to open up a weeding template, and we'll use this one I created for Algonquin for DVDs. So this includes the setting for how you want to mark items as withdrawn. You can choose never, immediately, or at approval. So I have it at approval. You also have checkbox for alert you for the last copy and delete the approved items. So you can add more than one criteria into a template if you'd like. So in this criteria that I created, you can see in this inclusion criteria, it uses a power search for the filters. So this can be created in the Find tool, and I'll be demonstrating how to do this in the webinar. And then we also have item filters for how old something is. So I have older than 3 years. And I'm going to now open up a record set that I created as an example. One moment. Need to find where I put the record set name. And copy that. Okay. So this is an example of what that reading record set will look like. You can see at the top, there's a section for the template that's linked to it. And when you add something to the record set that meets the criteria, you will not see this exclamation mark. But I've added two that are two new. These are only 2 years old or less. And so that exclamation mark is appearing in the record set. And when you do add it, you'll also see a toast telling you it doesn't meet the criteria. So I'm going to remove those two from the record set. Press save. And under this top actions drop-down menu, you'll see you can submit it for review or approval. So I'll just submit that for approval quickly so that I can show you briefly how this works. And under utilities, there's now an approval dashboard. So this will appear, the record set will appear in this list. Since I was the one to approve it, it's not appearing here, but we'll provide more details of how to do this in the webinar with both Mieko and I using our separate logins to demonstrate the process so that you can fully see it. But when you press approve, if you use the settings like I do to withdraw and delete at the same time, it will withdraw and delete at the same time. Are there any questions?
For the upcoming training, is this something that we should encourage all selectors who are responsible for reading as well as technical services staff to attend?
Yes, I would
Okay.
recommend that they all attend. Even though it is an optional weeding workflow, I think it's great for them to understand how it works to see if they're interested in doing it. They can still create their lists if they want to in Simply Reports and use those barcodes, but can also use the weeding record set to streamline that process of withdrawing and deleting the records.
Got it. Thanks.
Kathy, oh, sorry. Kathy asked, will it withdraw items that are currently checked out? No, it will not be able to withdraw the items that are currently checked out.
And is this something that would sort of only be used in Leap, or is it something that works in Leap and the client?
It is only in Leap. Any new features that Polaris will be adding will only be added to Leap. They are not interested in adding any new features like this to the client.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, Mieko? Oh, there is another question. Can we leave items in the weeding record set that do not fit the specified criteria and withdraw the item? What other criteria will keep items from being withdrawn? You can leave them, I think, in the record set. You may also instead want to change your criteria for their template instead. And that will broaden the years that are available for that. So what I think you would be able to leave in the record set would be something that fits within the date time period that has that exclamation mark. But I feel that, let's see, let me go back to that template for a second. So I believe that the power search is used to reject items from the record set. So for example, if you just have, let's say, so this is an Algonquin weeding criteria, and Algonquin has 2 branches. If you just have the main branch in this inclusion criteria, it will reject the item records from the other branch. So this is for DVDs, and it would like reject the Blu-ray. But we have item filters down here. We found that these item filters are like a little bit glitchy. So it works best just using this older than one. But if you did want to play around with it and see if it works, there's a newer than, lifetime circulation, lifetime in-house use, year-to-date circulation, and year-to-date in-house use. So in our webinar, we will be fully going through like all the details of how it works and the permissions that are required to be able to use it. And you'll be able to see it actually work when there are multiple staff working on the process. Mieko?
Yeah. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hey, Rachel, can you make me a co-host? Because I will be
Sure,
sharing my
one
screen here in a moment. Thanks. So for my portion of today's agenda, I'm going to demo some new functionality related to damaged items that's going to be available next week after our 7.5 upgrade. And personally, I'm looking forward to this functionality. Before I demo, I'm just want to give you a context to what series circulation staff are doing right now when something is damaged. So right now, when libraries are working with damaged items, they may either manually mark the item as lost in order to charge the patron for the replacement cost, or they may change the item's circulation status to damaged. Now, if a library opts to use that damaged status, the item needs to be like checked in first. It needs to be in available status in order for staff to update that circulation status. And this is just because like up until 7.5, there's no native way in Polaris to indicate that something is damaged. So right now we're just kind of using a MacGyvered solution for managing our damaged items. So staff will need to update that circulation status, and they can either do this right in the item record or through the manage item record tool at check-in. And then staff must also apply a fee manually if they're charging the patron. And circulation staff have encountered limitations with this method based on like the permissions or the branches. So like, for example, as you all know, you need item editing permissions in order to update the circulation status in item record. Or if someone has just general permissions and they're using that tool at check-in to update the circulation status, they can be limited based on the item's assigned branch. So for example, a staff member logged into Evanston, Maine, will not be able to update an item assigned to the Robert Crown branch using this method. So we've got that new damage functionality coming next week. And the circulation technical group, we did review this at our January meeting, and we decided they did vote to adapt the functionality. So the new workflows are going to come into play next week once we upgrade. And the functionality allows staff to declare an item damaged either from a dedicated check-in tab in Leap or directly from the patron's account. So doing this type of workflow this will automatically change the item's circulation status to damaged, and it will automatically apply a system block to the item record. It gives staff the option in some places to charge replacement fees. And it also gives staff the option to generate a manual bill notice for the item. So today I'm going to run through basically the 3 different workflows so you can kind of get a sense of what it looks like from the perspective of your circulation staff. So let me just share my screen so we can get to Leap here. There we go. I've got a sample patron record, my test patron record open here. And so for this first workflow, I'm just going to show you what it looks like to declare an item damage directly in the patron's record. So I'm going to start from their out overdue tab. These are all the items they currently have checked out. When a patron is found, or when a patron says they've got something that's completely water damaged, it's no longer going to be in circulation. All staff need to do now is select a checkbox next to the damaged item. And then, depending on your screen size, you may see this in just like this strip of buttons, or it may be nestled under the More drop-down menu. And then staff will select the Declare Damaged option. So what they're going to see now, they're going to then be presented with a dialog box, and this is where they can choose if they are going to charge the patron for the replacement cost and or the processing fee, or if they're going to waive those fees. So for this one, we'll say like, yes, we're holding the patron accountable. I can charge the patron to apply the fee to their card, or if the patron is going to pay right away, I also have the option of taking that money and marking the fee as paid. For this one, I'm going to say we're going to charge the patron for this fee. And then additionally, staff have the option to issue a manual bill. So by default, Polaris will not send a bill for the item through this workflow. If staff do want to issue a bill, all they need to do is check this little checkbox. They have a default text that they are able to modify if they want. And I'm just going to reduce the size of my screen here so I can see all the buttons. There we go. And then when they're ready, they can say, okay. So when I click OK, what this does, it's applying that bill. It's doing what I told it to do with the fee. So it's either going to apply the bill, it's going to mark it as paid, mark it as waived. If I selected to send the patron a bill notice, it will issue that bill notice. And then let me click into this charge so I can link to the item record and show you what it looks like from the item record perspective. The circulation status has automatically been updated to damaged. And like I said, there is now a system block attached to the item record. So that's the first workflow. Close out of my patron so I can show you the other 2 options that staff have. Both of these options are from the check-in tab or check-in work form. In the check-in work form, once we upgrade, staff will now see and have access to this damaged tab. So what happens here? If staff, let me copy one of my demo barcodes. If staff have an item, it is damaged, staff also have the option of updating the status right in check-in. So what this is going to do, it's going to change that circulation status. Staff have the option of applying a fee to the patron's record. And from here, it's either going to apply the fee to the patron who currently has it out, or if the item has already been checked in, it will apply the fee to the previous patron. And then additionally, there's an option for the bill. So let me show you what it looks like from here. I'm going to scan in my first item that is damaged. And when you scan in the item, staff will see this dialog. So workflow 1 is if you only want to update the status of the item. Selecting the little radio button for this option to declare damaged, update item only. This option will just change the circ status to damaged. It will just add the item block. It will not do anything with the patron account. So it won't charge the patron, it won't send them a bill. The other option here is to declare damage to charge and notify. So when you select this option, Leap will basically do all of the things. It will update the item record, add that block. It will charge either the current patron or the last patron, depending on what the item status is, and it will issue the bill notice to the patron. So this is a great option. We love having this declare damage, update item only option here. So it's a great one to just very quickly and easily update that item record to circulation status of damaged. So that is, let me just go through my notes, make sure I'm not missing any points here. So that is what this workflow looks like from your circulation staff perspective. Now, staff will still need to delete these item records for them to be removed from the database. So even though they're in damaged state, the circulation status is damaged, when you are ready to remove the records from the database, you will need to kind of go through and do that delete process. They'll be purged at the next purge time frame. If your library uses reports to identify damaged items, what's available in web reports is not going to change. So any report that currently includes damaged items will still continue to include those same damaged items. And then my final note I wanted to share with you all was that not all libraries opt to change the circ status to damaged. Like I mentioned at the start, a lot of libraries decide they're just going to manually mark things as lost when an item is found to be damaged. If that is your library's workflow, it is 100% okay to keep that workflow going. The only thing that's changing once we upgrade to 7.5 is if your library does like to use a damaged circ status, it is just the process of how you are getting that item into a damaged circ status. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I hope I stayed under my 10 minutes. I'm going to see if you have any questions. Otherwise, once we upgrade to 7.5, we've got some drafted procedure updates and how-to pages ready to go. Didn't want to publish them ahead of time because circulation staff are still using like their existing workflow until we upgrade. Well, if you do have any questions, absolutely reach out. For those libraries who do use the damaged circulation status, I hope this helps to kind of streamline the process and just kind of give you a little more options.
I have a question. I have a question, Michael.
Yeah.
If we have circulation staff check items out to repair so that somebody else can evaluate if the item's actually completely damaged, we could still do that, right? We can have front desks to repair, somebody in the back check out if it's actually damaged to delete it.
Yeah, if that's your workflow, absolutely stick with it.
Okay,
and then there
thank
was
you.
a question. Yeah, there was a question that came in through chat from Penny about, let me open it up. The report that says bindery will still display damaged items. That is correct. That report will still feed in the damaged items post upgrade. I will turn it back to Rachel.
Well, that is everything on our agenda today. Tammy, did you want to ask if there was anything that anyone wanted? Oh, there's another question that just came in from Kathy. When circulation staff can start using this, can we revisit using bindery for items being sent to be rebound?
The current circulation status is going to be reappropriated to display.
Was there any other questions for Mieko? Okay. Tammy, did you want to ask if there were any other announcements or topics for discussion that anyone was interested in?
Of course, did anybody have any news or any topics, as Rachel just said? No, nobody wants to speak up? Okay.
Tammy, Kathy from McHenry, and I do have a question. Our organization has been looking at a more data-driven approach to what we do. So what I'm curious to know is, does anyone have things like output standards, guidelines? So like if you're looking at approaching your director for, hey, I need new positions, or working with new staff in terms of expectations, you know, what kind of things you're considering and using?
If anybody wants to think about it and get back to Kathy, if you have any suggestions?
One thing that we're in the process of at CCS is looking through lists of types of data that directors are interested in. They did an exercise at the last governing board meeting in which they brainstormed the different types of data they'd like CCS to help gather for them. So this is something that we still need to spend time reviewing. But if there's certain types of data that technical services departments think that they would benefit from that they don't know how to get yet from the Simply reports or web reports, then feel free to send us information about what you would like to see from the data that we can help provide, and you can just create a help desk ticket to let us know.
Kathy, can you just repeat your question one more time for the minutes?
Would it be easier if I put it in the chat for you?
Sure, if you'd like. That's no problem. Thank you.
Okay, nobody else has any questions or announcements or anything? Then I'd just like to remind everybody that our next meeting will be live in person at the CCS headquarters on May 15th at 9:30 a.m. I will be sending out reminders, and because it is in person, there will be an RSVP. And then can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, then I'll call this, I will call the meeting to adjournment. Thank you for everybody to come.